Good evening, I'm Mike Yanessa. Welcome to another episode of Car Stories here on PCTV. I'm in my showroom at 525 East High Street, and the feature tonight is this 1934 Harley VLD. At this particular time, 1934, this was the fastest production bike. This bike was in rough condition when we got it. We did the body work and the paint work, and the customer assembled it. He just got it done. He brought it back in here. It was in here over the Christmas holidays to be displayed, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful bike. He bought the bike in pieces. It wasn't a complete bike. He bought the motor, bought the frame, bought the forks. The front fork was actually bent. We straightened it, and the tanks were horrible. I don't know if you ever watch American Pickers, but there's one episode where he finds these Harley tanks just like these in the mud, and there's nothing left of them. And I don't remember the price, but it was a lot of money. These were in very bad shape. The fenders were in bad shape, and we spent quite a bit of time making them perfect and beautiful. These old Harleys, they just keep going up in value. It's a good investment, and it's just a neat machine. I mean, it has the toolbox, it has the leather seat. The color at the beginning, of course, you know, the drab green, I was like, well, it's not my favorite, but they only came in green and orange. But once the bike was done, the green paint, black paint, and the gold pinstripe, and the black pinstripe, it just came out beautiful. So a nice 1934 VLD, something you don't see every day. It's going home probably in another week. Bob Kirshner's house, that's the guy who built it and owns it. And he was a very good customer, very appreciative of all the hard work that we did to bring this baby back to life. So I covered up this 35 Chevy that's here in the showroom, which, by the way, is still for sale, with one of the new Eastwood car covers. I mean, these things for, I think, don't quote me on the price, but they're like $55 to $70. I mean, they're really cheap, they're really nice. And this one's a little bit small for this because it's a street rod, but like on a Camaro or something that doesn't have such a high roof, they fit very well. This is a medium. I probably should have put a large on it, but I just wanted to show you what it looked like out of the box. They give you this nice carrying bag. Eastwood, do the job right. They're right here in Pottstown on a Shoemaker Road behind Walmart. Great place. They have car shows throughout the summer. They have a lot of new events scheduled for 2019, so make sure you check out their website. And if you need anything for your car, or if you're a hobbyist of any kind, stop in at Eastwood. Here in our showroom, we do sell the car covers. We sell some of the other products, the lights and battery tenders and stuff like that. But Eastwood up on Shoemaker Road has a nice new walk-in retail store, so check them out. So if you watched last month's show, I did a little bit on this beautiful 65 Impala Super Sport, all the way from California. No rust, working on the interior a little bit, and buying some parts for it. I'm going to do everything but paint it. The paint is nicked up. It's not too good a shape up close. Some of it's original, but I don't have the time right now, so I just want to get it that I can drive it this summer. But you'll see the interior, and I took the plates off and put my plates on it, but this is so cool. Original California black plate from 1965. Actually, it's from 1963 because the 63 is embossed. So he must have used this plate, traded it in, and they put it on the 65. It's been on there ever since. I had to take it off to put my plate on, never realized. Check this out. Look at all the updated stickers, which we don't do anymore in Pennsylvania, which is another real pain because it looks like half of the cars don't have tags on them. But look at the pile of stickers all the way up until 2018. Is that cool? So California black plate car, very solid. Bobby Bauer tuned it up. It's running like a champ. And if you remember last month, I showed you the interior. So let's take a look inside and I'll tell you what I did. So the inside of this car was dirty. Shined up a lot of chrome. You can see I didn't put the radio in yet. I'm working on a radio. I have to have tunes. If anybody knows me, I need a radio, front and rear speaker. But cleaned up the dash pad, shampooed and cleaned the original carpet. This guy had patches glued to the carpet, and I peeled them up. There's two small holes over here, which the floor mat will cover. And the original carpet cleaned up beautifully. Joe Somnick's patched the driver's seat for me, which I'm sitting in. Brand new 2-spoke wheel. They went to a 3-spoke wheel in '67. I don't know why, safety probably, but this is a reproduction, very good quality reproduction wheel. It looks nice. So the interior is just about done other than a radio, and we'll be ready to cruise this beautiful '65 Impala Super Sport. So I got her sitting pretty nice, put a pair of air shocks on the back so the back end's up a little. She was sagging. And one of the things I wanted to do to it is dual antennas. This car had the option of a rear antenna, but it went straight up. So I bought these reproduction dual antennas. This one's real, works with the radio. That one's just for looks. And it just gives the car a nice look. I got a set of really nice spinner hubcaps just like they're on it. These are a little pitted. I'm probably going to leave just the wheels and tires the way it is and drive it like that rather than put mags on it. Just leave it stock. So check out these pair of '68 Chevelles. This one, as you can see, is very dirty. That one's cleaner, but it needs a lot of work. So we're going to talk about these two cars. We're going to talk about Chevrolet in 1968. Chevrolet in 1968 had so many plants building these cars. I'm going to read them to you. We had Atlanta, Baltimore, Massachusetts, Flint, Michigan, Fremont, California, Kansas City, Van Nuys, California, Oshawa, Canada, St. Teresa, Belgium. They were all the plants that built Chevelles. Isn't that amazing? Now, today, we only have a few plants, around the country. So all those plants, remember, supplied workers in those districts. Like now they're closing the Baltimore plant, if you didn't hear that or not. GM is kind of getting out of cars. They're going towards trucks and sport utility vehicles. So they're closing a couple plants, and it's a shame to see the Baltimore plant close. A lot of cars from this dealership and the local dealerships were built from Baltimore or Massachusetts. These two Chevelles were built in Baltimore. This one was built the third week of June, 1968. That one was built the third week of May, 1968. They're about 5,000, 4,000 and change bodies away from each other. So it's fair to say that they built 1,000 cars a week in Baltimore because the body numbers are separate from the VIN number. And that's what I'm going to show you tonight. I'm going to show you some numbers on these cars. How do I know these numbers? How do we come up with it? Now, both of these cars, if you look at them, look similar, okay? In the restoration business, what everybody wants to know is how much is it going to be to restore my car and how much it's going to be worth when I'm done restoring it. And that is an impossible task because there's so many variables. So many hidden things once you strip the car and find out that there's hidden rust. Parts, are you going to put reproduction parts on? Or are you going to find original GM parts? The price is, you don't know what you're going to pay for that piece of molding. GM could be $50, it could be $500. You really don't know. You have to find out how readily available it is and who has it. So this car here is a beautiful two-door hardtop, a little bit of rust. It's been sitting for years. You can see the 1989 inspection stickers on it. That one over there is the same body, but there's a big difference. And this is what I said when people decide to restore these cars. This one here, if you restore it, you wouldn't get your money back, okay? Because it needs more than the car is actually worth. That one over there, now that's a special one. And that's the first one we're going to talk about tonight. So let's go over and look at that '68 Chevelle, and then we'll come over and look at this one. So here we are, '68 Chevelle, two-door hardtop. The trim is missing that goes along the bottom here. It's in very poor shape. A little bit of rust down here, but not bad. Had a new quarter panel put on the right way, all the way up to here, because a wheel fell off of it back in the day. Trick that I do, take a flashlight and look down inside the doors. And if you see any hammer marks or stud marks or screw marks, you know that there was body work done on the door. Both doors are clean. So this is an interesting story. I just picked this up in Virginia 2 days ago. Kelly and I drove to Virginia, found this car, drove all the way down there with the enclosed trailer, and picked it up because it's such a special car. Now, people will see this car, and even my wife said, boy, it needs a lot of work. You know, it's not normal. I usually buy cars that are shiny and halfway decent. This car needs a lot of work. It does. It was bought new at Faulkner Chevrolet in Virginia. The guy, the original owner, died and passed it to his brother. That brother had it from 1980 until 5 years ago when the gentleman I bought it from. It sat under a carport. So under a carport is a different kind of element than if it was in a damp garage or in a barn. So the floors and trunks are very nice, but the car is very weathered. All the anodized aluminum, if you can see up here, is shot. There's no shine to it. It's reproduction bumpers, which we'll talk about. Reproduction headlight rings, which don't fit. They're too shiny, and they're $238. So that's what separates some of these cars, whether it's reproduction or GM. So anyhow, very unique car, sat under a carport all them years, got weathered. This gentleman bought it, did the mechanics on the car, and started to do the interior, and something came up. He's an Oldsmobile guy. He found an Oldsmobile he wanted, so he decided to sell it. So people will walk by these cars at a car show and say this car had a price on it of $35,000. So many people would walk by without even looking at it and say, there, that guy's crazy. He's never going to get that for that car. It's a piece of junk. It needs paint. Then you'll walk by that maroon one over there, and the price tag on that one would be $5,000 or $6,000, $7,000, you know? Well, that's a better deal. I don't want to spend all that money. That one, yeah. But you're not comparing apples to apples. This one is the rare Chevelle that you can probably find because it's a 396, 375 horse, 28,000 original miles, we think. No proof, but I'm pretty sure it's 28 original. And we'll use our Eastwood light here, get you a little bit more light on that rare 396, 375 horse, solid camshaft. Really has 425 horsepower, but they lowered it to meet standards to 375, which was more than just a sticker. The motor has 425, 430 horsepower all day long. But there was insurance things going on back in the 1968, 69, so they lied on the horsepower. So never been out of the car. Original exhaust manifolds on the car. The smog system's missing. So how would you handle this car? It's a very touchy subject. Like frame-up restoration, you're gonna have a lot of money into the car. It'll be worth a lot of money, but the way I look at it, how many of them are left with the original 396 that runs good, that's still in the car, that nobody's ever restored? So I'm going to repaint it eventually. I'm going to redo the car, but I think the motor is going to stay the way it is. And I know that's a little bit crazy, but it survived all these years, and I think it should stay like that. But what a neat car, a good find, and a very, very valuable car. They made 4,000 of these cars in 1968 with this engine. They made 9,000 in 1969 with this engine. This car has no options except shoulder harnesses, but it was never raced. They never put headers on it. They never modified the car in any way. The only thing done to the car is they put gauges under the dash and they put hood pins in it, which could have been done at the dealer. It could have been dealer installed, because I find it odd that the customer would put hood pins in it and stop there. They didn't do any other upgrades. It's even got the original Muncie shifter, which everybody knew back in 1968, before they built the cars, they didn't work. By this time, everybody had Hurst shifters in their car. But General Motors didn't want to put Hurst shifters in. They wanted to put their own product in, which is the Muncie from Muncie, Michigan. So the shifter in the car, the reason they don't work, if you want to know, the shifter is bolted to the frame, not the transmission. So you have this torque monster of a big block with a stick shift transmission. As soon as you jump on it, the motor moves, torques up, and binds up the linkage because it's rigid, bolted to, the shifter's rigid, bolted to the frame, where the Hurst is bolted to the transmission. So just a neat car, but again, how do you restore it? So the way to restore this car is a very delicate process. And how do you give a price? There is no price. This car deserves NOS, original GM parts. I'm taking that reproduction bumper off of there. I'm taking those reproduction headlight rings off and getting GM ones. So that could add substantial amount of money, but when the car's done, it's going to be worth so much more. The little 307 car side of it, yeah, you could put reproduction parts on it and make it a real nice driving car, put a bigger engine in it, do whatever you want to it, and it's not going to really affect the value. Now, we always talk about paperwork, we always talk about numbers. So let's go over to the CAL, and I'll show you the CAL tag on this car, and I'll show you a big surprise, what makes it even rarer. So all cars, a Chevrolet, a Mustang, they have a CAL tag or they have an identification tag. They're located at different parts of the car. We're using our Swell Eastwood rechargeable light here, just like the one under the hood, and we got it zoomed in on the CAL tag. So let me show you what I can tell you about this one. There's the 05C. 05 is May, C is the 3rd week. And then this is the 114203 is the body number. The 13837, but the 138 is a code that tells you it is a real Super Sport. And they only had 396 Chevelles. Like the Camaro had a code for the 350 Super Sport and the big block Super Sport. So all Chevelle Super Sports were big blocks. 138 is the code you're looking for. YY, that's the paint code, which means it's butternut yellow and butternut yellow, meaning that the bottom of the car was yellow and the roof was yellow. If it said Y1, it would have had a white roof. If it says Y2, it would have had a black roof. Same with a convertible. What color top did it have? That's where you find that out. But this one is YY. Baltimore is right here, BAL. That means it was built in Baltimore. This B means Buick. And this is a Chevy. The 765 158B means it has a deluxe Buick interior. So how rare is that? We're going to show you the interior in a minute, but I'm going to tell you what happened. There's 2 stories, but there is a letter on the internet. I mean, the internet's great for me, for researching cars. Some of it you got to watch because there's a lot of BS on the internet, but this is a copy of a letter sent out to the dealerships in February, March of 1968 that there was a supply problem with interiors for Chevelles, Concourse, and a couple other Chevrolet models, and they were going to substitute Buick interiors and Oldsmobile interiors. It was in 3 plants. Baltimore was one of them. There's 2 little things here. One is that it was when Martin Luther King got assassinated and the upholstery union was working without a contract for months, and they decided to walk out sometime in February, March of '68, leaving a short supply of interiors. So to keep the assembly lines rolling, General Motors substituted Buick interiors. Found 2 cars with Oldsmobile interiors. This is the only car that I found so far that has the Buick bench seat without an armrest. There's a couple with an armrest, and there's a couple with the bucket seats. So you got a Buick GS interior in your Chevelle Super Sport. If you ordered a regular Chevelle, you got the Buick Skylark interior, the cheaper one. So this is one, those numbers right there prove it. And the interior we're going to look at right now, and I'll show you some of the differences. So there's that Muncie shifter over there that's still in the car that I don't know any cars today, Camaros, Nova Chevelles, that people put up with those shifters all these years. And there's the Buick interior. It's got longer armrests than the Chevy. The Chevy ones are like that. It's got this chrome strip. It's totally different. This is probably the same, but the pattern, the chrome, and that is the same. The seats, the way they're pleated, and the little decorations, that's Buick. So the good news is the car came with a new dash pad, new carpet, new headliner, the correct Buick seat covers, and the foam. So all the parts are here to put together except the door panels, which are available. They're a little expensive, but again, you can't have a budget, you can't pitch pennies on a car like this. The door panels are $500 or $600. A regular Chevelle is only $300. Well, guess what? You got to buy the right ones. I mean, you know, that's why I say it's difficult sometimes to put a number on a restoration because there's so many things that are different. This car is worthy of any money you can put at it. There's no budget on it. When it's done, and it's going to be an awesome, one-of-a-kind 68 Chevelle SS 396, 375 horse with a Buick interior. There's just none out there. There's none left. 3 of the wheels are original. It's got the original jack in the trunk. The hubcaps were in the trunk. They call these the bottle cap hubcaps. Gus, if you can get that, yep. Bottle cap hubcaps, they were cheap hubcaps. A lot of guys ordered them because they knew the next day they were going to put Craigers on it or put rally wheels on it. But these are the ones from the car. They were in the trunk. So just no options. Like I said, it has shoulder harnesses and a rear speaker, and it did have the optional SS stripe, which goes above the chrome, black, like that, all the way around. That doesn't show on the cal tag, but the guy I bought it from said that he remembers the car with the stripe. So you got to do your homework when you're looking at these cars, folks, because like I said, if you walk by this car and it was at a flea market for, you know, big money, a lot of the people will make rude comments and that guy's crazy and he doesn't know. No, you don't know because you never took the time to look at the car and analyze it to see what it is. There's a big difference from car to car, condition, metalwork, how many parts come with it, how rare is it, NOS, reproduction, new, mileage. The only thing that this car doesn't have is documentation, meaning that the build sheet, a lot of times they'll put a sheet of paper on the assembly line under the back seat or on top of the gas tank. And that sheet has all the options checked off so that when I was working or Gus was working on the assembly line, he looked at the seat and said, yep, this gets bumper guards, it gets full hubcaps, it gets whatever. That is missing from the car and the original paperwork. But the cal tag proves the Buick interior and the VIN number is on the engine and on the transmission that matches this body. So it's 100% original, guaranteed. It's not a reproduction motor or anything like that. It's just that those pieces of paper add another couple $1,000s to the car. So let's look at the engine numbers and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So check out the Eastwood under the hood light. Comes in handy, and I have one here that I'm holding, and right down there is the numbers. And I hope you can see them, but all Chevrolet big blocks high horse were built in Tonawanda, New York. So the TO means Tonawanda. 5 means May, 24th, so that's May 24th. Third week, remember I said the car was built the third week of May? So the motor number lines up. Well, they could have got another motor from another car with the same date, but very faintly is the VIN number. Again, Baltimore, and it's, I can hardly read it, but it's 206 452. That's the same 6 numbers that are on the VIN tag of this car. So definitely the original block. This head, the story goes, this cylinder head was replaced in 1970 under warranty. Other than that, the intake manifold, the carburetor, the distributor, even the fan clutch. I don't even want to tell you what this fan clutch costs today to replace. So again, is the mileage original? I have no proof and I can't say it is. But all these fan clutches blew up and people put flex fans on them. The shifter, everybody put a Hurst in because those shifters jammed up. And the reverse lights even work. When this gentleman bought the car, it had GM exhaust on it. Again, nobody put glass packs on it. Nobody put air shocks on it. It was just a car that somebody drove back and forth to work a couple miles a day, and it only clocked 28,000 miles because there's too many signs. The motor, the inside the valve covers are perfectly clean. It doesn't smoke. It runs good. The fan clutch, the shifter, the backup lights. So, in my opinion, it's a 28,000 mile car that just sat under a carport. This gentleman said the brother got the car in 1980, around there, and he saw it on the road from 1980 till 2013. He saw it on the road like 2 or 3 times. So the car just sat. And when they sit, they get little surface rust and the chrome goes, the interior goes, but luckily the motor survived and it's really a nice car. So here's the motor in the 68 307 car, 200 horsepower, 2-barrel, automatic, no options, no power brakes, no power steering. This car was in the Allentown, Hellertown area, and he worked at Bethlehem Steel. So the gentleman drove it back and forth from Bethlehem Steel. It's a B title car, actually A title, because it went to his son after he passed away. And I bought it from his son way back in April of this year. Never had time to mess with it. Got it out of the trailer. Bobby had it running in about 30 minutes. Runs good. 104,000 miles. Again, cal tag on this one shows the information of the maroon paint. It was built the 3rd week of June, and it was built in Baltimore, and it's a few thousand bodies away from that one over there. So nice car to have around, and probably wind up using a couple parts from this one to make that one even better. Won't hurt the value of this car because it's just amazing that it's so original. I mean, look at the air cleaner and the pipes, and everything was not touched. Serviced, but not touched. Wasn't run since 1989, wasn't inspected on the road. But one thing that this car has that the yellow one doesn't have, and we're going to show you right now. I have it laid out on the back, Gus. So we always talk about paperwork and proof. This car has a lot of proof. It has the original owner's card cover, original owner's manual, all these insurance cards dating back to 1970, receipts from a Sunoco gas station, 1970, a tune-up, oil change, dual exhaust, and rebuilt the transmission, $200 in 1974. Rebuilt the transmission. Now, you probably get an oil change and it wouldn't get a tune-up. Just stuff that adds to the car. But the gold one, is the Protecto plate. You always hear that? General Motors used these, and on these steel plates, they would put the original owner's name, and on this plate, you can tell the engine, you can tell the transmission. It verifies the car one more step. If the yellow car had this, it would add thousands of dollars to the value. Corvettes, it adds $5,000. I mean, it's just really like gold to have that. So I hope you enjoyed the stories tonight about the Chevelles. They're really fun. The number thing is really fun and enjoyable to do for me. And you remember the Rambler Scrambler I was working on for a long time? It finally left. I delivered that on the way to Virginia to pick this one up to the owner. He's happy as can be. The car came out really nice. Here's some pictures of it before it left. 1969 Rambler Scrambler, 390, 4-speed, cross ram engine, 425 horsepower. I'll tell you what, I drove a lot of cars. This thing drives so nice, it's so comfortable, and it's so responsive. Usually a cross ram engine is a little bit sluggish. This thing really ran good. Well, that's about all for tonight, folks. We run out of time on Car Stories on PCTV. Tune in next month, and I'll have another car story for you. I'm Mike Yanessa. Take care.